You scroll. You watch their life unfold in perfect squares, the light always golden, the smile always easy, the moment always complete. And somewhere inside you, something tightens, because your morning wasn't golden. Your face in the mirror wasn't glowing. Your life in this moment feels ordinary, heavy, incomplete. You're comparing your entire inner landscape to their single captured second. You're holding your anxiety, your doubt, your restless thoughts, your tired body, your uncertain future, all of it, up against their best angle, their chosen moment, the 1 second out of 86,000 they decided to keep. And you're losing a contest that was never real. Notice what happens in that moment of comparison, how quickly the mind moves, how it takes their image and builds a story. They have it figured out, they're happy, they're free. They don't struggle like you do. They don't wake up feeling heavy. They don't question everything. They don't carry what you carry. But you don't know what they carry. You see the photograph. You don't see the hour before it, the doubt, the retake, the filter. The caption they rewrote 3 times. You don't see them at 3 in the morning. You don't see their fear, their loneliness, their own scrolling, their own comparing, their own quiet sense that they're not enough. You're measuring your inside against their outside. And inside is where you live. Inside is where the weather changes, where thoughts arrive uninvited, where old pain surfaces, where the future feels uncertain, where nothing stays still. You live in the full experience, the unfiltered hours, the moments no one sees, the thoughts you'd never speak, the feelings you can't name, the restlessness that has no reason, the heaviness that comes and goes. And you're comparing all of that, the raw, unedited experience of being alive, to someone's highlight. Watch how the comparison creates the suffering, not the image itself, not their life, but the movement of your mind that says, they have something I don't, they are something I'm not. That thought, that's where it begins. And then the mind keeps building. If only I had that. If only I looked like that. If only my life felt like that. If only I could be that light, that easy, that complete. But that doesn't exist, not the way you imagine it. What you're seeing is a moment, frozen, selected, framed. It's already gone for them. They've already moved on to the next moment, which might be ordinary, which might be difficult, which might feel exactly like yours. The Buddha said, "We are what we think." All that we are arises with our thoughts. You're not suffering because their life is better. You're suffering because you're believing a thought about their life, and then believing a thought about your own. Both are stories. Both are constructions. Both are the mind trying to make sense of something that can't be held still. Their life is impermanent, changing, uncertain, just like yours. That moment you saw? It's already different. The light has shifted. The feeling has passed. The smile has faded into whatever came next. Nothing stays. And your life, right now, in its ordinariness, in its difficulty, in its realness, it's also impermanent. This heaviness won't last. This doubt won't last. This feeling of not being enough won't last. But when you compare, you freeze both lives. You make theirs permanently good, and yours permanently lacking. You trap yourself in a story where you're always behind, always less than, always missing something essential. And that story is suffering. Not because it's true, but because you're believing it, because you're living inside it, because you're measuring yourself against it, moment after moment, scroll after scroll. What if you just saw it for what it is? An image, a moment, someone else's life which you cannot know, which you do not live, which has nothing to do with whether you are enough. Your inner life is not a mistake. Your struggle is not evidence that you're failing. Your uncertainty is not proof that others have found something you're missing. Everyone is carrying their inner weather. Everyone is living in the gap between how things look and how things feel. Everyone is comparing, grasping, doubting, hoping it will feel different tomorrow. You're not behind. You're just alive. And alive means impermanent, unstable, changing, sometimes heavy, sometimes light, never one thing for long. Can you see the comparison happening without becoming it? Can you notice the thought without believing it? Can you feel the tightness in your chest without making it mean something about your worth? Just see it. The image, the thought, the feeling, all of it arising, all of it passing. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to stop comparing. You don't need to be better at this. Just see that you're doing it, and that the suffering isn't in their life or yours. It's in the space between, in the story, in the belief that this moment should be different than it is. You stand in front of the mirror, or you scroll through your phone, and somewhere in your mind a comparison begins. You see someone's body, a stranger's body, and without deciding to, you measure yourself against it. Their stomach is flatter. Their arms are leaner, their skin is smoother, and in that moment something tightens inside you, something that feels like falling short. But what are you actually measuring? You think you're measuring your body, the inches, the shape, the way the light falls across your skin. But look closer. What's really happening in that moment when you hold yourself up against someone else's image? You're not just seeing two bodies. You're creating a story about what those bodies mean, about what they say, about who deserves to feel okay and who doesn't. You're measuring distance, the distance between where you are and where you think you should be, between what you have and what you think would finally be enough. And that distance, it's not measured in pounds or inches, it's measured in a feeling of not yet, a feeling of still not right, a feeling that whispers, when you look like that, then you'll be acceptable, then you'll be safe, then you'll be loved. And so you keep measuring, you keep comparing, you keep scrolling, looking, checking, as if the next image will somehow give you the answer. As if somewhere in all those bodies you'll find the blueprint that will end this restlessness inside you. But the restlessness doesn't come from your body. It comes from the measuring itself. Every time you compare, you create a gap. And that gap becomes suffering. Not because your body is wrong, but because you've made your peace conditional. You've said to yourself, I will feel okay when I look different. I will rest when I've changed. I will accept myself when I finally measure up. And the images keep changing. The standards keep shifting. What was enough last year isn't enough now. What you wanted to look like then has already been replaced by something new, something else, something always just out of reach. You're chasing something that has no finish line. The stranger's body you're measuring against, do you even know them? Do you know what they're struggling with? Do you know the angles they tried before posting that image, the light they waited for, the discomfort they feel when no one's looking? You're comparing your entire lived experience, the tiredness, the bloating, the ordinariness of being in a body all day long against a single frozen moment of someone else's life. And even if their body stayed exactly the same forever, even if you could somehow match it perfectly, the measuring wouldn't stop. Because the problem was never the body. The problem is the belief that your worth can be measured at all. The Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Not when you've changed, not when you've earned it, not when the measurements finally match. Now, as you are. In this body, the one that's breathing while you read this, the one that's holding you up, keeping you alive, doing its best with what it has. But you keep measuring because somewhere you learned that your body is a project, that it's something to fix, to perfect, to control. And control feels safer than acceptance. Striving feels safer than rest. Measuring feels safer than simply being here, in this skin, without knowing if it's good enough. What if it's not about good enough at all? What if the body you're in is just the body you're in, not a statement, not a success or failure, not a reflection of your discipline or worth? What if it's just temporary, changing, doing what bodies do? You can feel that, can't you? The way your body is different today than it was 5 years ago. The way it will be different 5 years from now. The way it shifts with the seasons, with stress, with age, with life. You're trying to measure something that won't hold still. You're trying to fix something that was never broken. You're trying to control something that was always meant to change. And in all that effort, all that measuring, all that comparing, you miss the actual moment. This one. The one where you're alive, where you're breathing, where you exist just as you are without needing to be anyone else. The measuring creates the suffering, the comparison creates the gap, and the gap creates the feeling that you're not enough. Not because it's true, but because you keep drawing the line somewhere else, somewhere outside yourself, somewhere in an image of a stranger who doesn't even know you exist. What if you stop measuring just for a moment? Not forever, not as a rule, just here, just now. What if you let the body be what it is without needing it to be anything else? The question remains. The restlessness might remain. But maybe in the space between comparisons there's something quieter, something that doesn't need to measure at all. You finish something. Maybe it's a good day's work. Maybe it's something you've been putting off for weeks, and for a moment there's relief. But then, almost immediately, the mind begins its familiar work. It reaches past what you've done and points toward everything you haven't. The relief dissolves. What remains is a quiet heaviness, a sense that no matter what you complete, it's never quite enough. You know this feeling. You've lived inside it so many times. You cross something off the list, and the list grows longer. You accomplish something real, and within minutes your mind is already cataloguing what's still undone, what's still waiting, what you should have finished by now. The thing you just did becomes small. It becomes evidence not of your effort, but of your inadequacy. Why does the mind do this? Because the mind is not interested in what is. It's interested in what should be. It measures, it compares. It builds an image of where you're supposed to be, and then it holds your life up against that image again and again. And the image is always just out of reach, always a little further than where you are. So everything you do becomes proof that you're behind. Everything you finish becomes a reminder of what remains unfinished. You're not doing this on purpose. You're not choosing to feel this way. It's simply what the mind does when it believes that your worth depends on your productivity. When it believes that being enough means doing enough. And doing enough means never stopping, never resting, never simply being here in this moment without a task to justify your existence. So you turn accomplishment into evidence of failure. You take what you've done and make it small. Make it insufficient, because the mind has learned to survive by always reaching forward, by never letting you settle, by keeping you in motion, in pursuit, in a state of perpetual incompletion. And beneath all of this is fear. The fear that if you stop, if you rest, if you acknowledge what you've actually done, you'll be exposed. You'll be seen as lazy, as falling behind, as not serious enough, not committed enough, not worthy of the life you want. So the mind protects you by never letting you arrive. It keeps you hungry, it keeps you striving, and in doing so, it keeps you exhausted. But look closely at what's happening. You finish something, and the mind immediately moves. It doesn't stay with what is. It doesn't let the moment be what it is. It reaches, it grasps. It creates a story about what this accomplishment means, and that story is always the same. It's not enough. You're not enough. You're behind. And because the mind keeps moving, you never actually experience completion. You never feel the fullness of having done something. You live in a constant state of lack, not because you're actually lacking, but because the mind refuses to see what's here. It's always somewhere else, always measuring, always comparing, always finding you wanting. The Buddha said, the root of suffering is attachment. And what is this, if not attachment to an image of who you should be? An attachment to productivity as proof of worth. An attachment to the belief that you'll finally be enough when you've done enough, even though enough never comes. The image is not real. The standard you're holding yourself to is not fixed. It moves as you move. It grows as you grow. It's designed to keep you chasing, because the mind believes that safety lies in constant motion, in constant improvement, in never being satisfied. But you are not the mind's story about you. You are not the measurement. You are not the gap between what you've done and what you think you should have done. Those are thoughts, movements, events that arise and pass. And when you see them as movements rather than as truth, something shifts. Not because you've fixed anything, not because you've finally done enough, but because you stop believing that your worth is something you have to earn. What you've done is what you've done. It doesn't need to be evidence of anything. It doesn't need to prove you're enough or not enough. It simply is. And the mind's habit of turning it into proof of inadequacy is just that, a habit, a pattern. A pattern. Something that arises because it's been practiced again and again until it feels like truth. But it's not truth. It's just movement. And you can see it moving. You don't have to stop it. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to do enough to finally silence it. You only have to see it. To notice the moment when accomplishment turns into evidence. To notice the reaching, the grasping, the way the mind refuses to rest. And in that seeing, there's space. Not resolution, not an answer, just space. The question remains open. The pattern may continue. But you're no longer inside it in quite the same way. You're here, watching it move. You look at where you are and feel behind. Not behind anything real. Behind something you built in your mind from watching someone else's life unfold at a different speed. Their timeline, their milestones, their rhythm, and somehow, without deciding to, you've made it yours. You've made it the measure of whether you're doing this right, whether you're enough, whether you're late. But late according to what? You see someone married at 25 and you think, I should have been there by now. You see someone with a career that's clear and solid, and you think, I'm still figuring it out, I'm still lost. You see someone who seems calm, who seems settled, and you measure your restlessness against their stillness. And in that moment, you create your own suffering. You take their life and turn it into evidence that yours is wrong. It happens quietly. You scroll, you compare, you subtract their arrival from yours, and the difference becomes proof. Proof that you're failing, proof that you're not keeping up, proof that time is running out. But the timeline you're holding isn't even real. It's borrowed. It's assembled from fragments of other people's outsides. You don't see their confusion. You don't see their setbacks. You don't see the years they spent not knowing. You see the outcome, and you think it was always clear, always on time, always moving forward. And then you look at yourself and see only delay. You forget that your life isn't theirs, that your beginning isn't their beginning, that the conditions that shape them are not the conditions shaping you. You forget that there is no universal clock ticking the same for everyone, no cosmic schedule that says by this age you must have this, by this year you must be here. And still, the feeling persists, the feeling of being late, the tightness in your chest when you think about what you haven't done, the shame that creeps in when someone asks where you are in life and you don't have the answer they expect. The quiet panic that whispers everyone else is ahead and you're still here, still stuck, still waiting for your life to start. But what if it's already started? What if this right now is not the waiting room but the life itself? You keep thinking that once you catch up, once you reach the milestone, once you arrive where they are, then you'll be okay. Then the feeling will stop. But it doesn't. Because the timeline keeps moving. There's always another marker, another comparison, another way to feel behind. The Buddha said, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment. You're not late. You're just living in someone else's movie and calling it your map." The suffering comes from the measuring, from taking your life, which is unfolding in its own way, and forcing it to match a pattern that was never yours. You want certainty. You want to know that you're on track. But whose track? The one you saw on social media, the one your parents expected, the one your friends seem to be on. You don't even know if they feel on time. You don't know if they look at you and think the same thing. You don't know if the life that looks so clear from the outside feels just as uncertain from within. And underneath all of this is fear. Fear that you've wasted time. Fear that it's too late. Fear that you'll never catch up, never arrive, never be enough. And so you hold tighter to the timeline, as if measuring yourself against it will somehow pull you forward. But it doesn't. It just makes you feel smaller. You can't be late for your own life. You can only be late for someone else's idea of what your life should look like. And maybe the question isn't whether you're on time. Maybe the question is whether you're willing to see that the clock you're watching was never set for you. That the race you think you're losing was never one you agreed to run. Right now, you are here. Not ahead. Not behind. Here. And the moment you stop comparing here to there, something shifts. Not relief, not arrival, just space. Just the quiet recognition that your life is not a performance being judged against someone else's schedule. You don't have to catch up. You don't have to prove you're not late, you just have to see that the timeline you're using doesn't belong to you. And in seeing that, even for a moment, the pressure loosens. Not because you've figured it out, not because you've arrived, but because you've stopped running toward a finish line that was never real. You're here, right now. And maybe that's not late. Maybe that's just where you are. You look at them and you feel it immediately. That tightness in your chest, that quiet collapse inside. They're further along. They have what you don't. They're where you should be by now. And then comes the hatred. Not loud, not dramatic, just that familiar turning inward, that voice that says you're failing, that you're behind, that something is wrong with you for not being there yet. But notice what happens in that moment. Notice what you're actually doing. You're not just comparing yourself, you're building something, a wall, a story, a reason. The hatred feels like punishment, but it's protecting something. It's keeping something safe that you don't want to look at. What if the real pain isn't that you're behind? What if the real pain is that there is no behind? That the race you're losing doesn't exist outside your own mind? When you hate yourself for not being where they are, you get to believe the problem is you, your laziness, your weakness, your brokenness. And if the problem is you, then the path forward is clear. Fix yourself, work harder, be better. Catch up. But what if you can't catch up? What if there's nowhere to catch up to? That's the thing you're protecting yourself from seeing. That their life is not your measuring stick. That their timeline means nothing about yours. That the whole framework of ahead and behind is something you're creating moment by moment, thought by thought. The hatred is easier than that emptiness. The hatred gives you something to hold on to. It tells you the game is real, you're just losing it, and losing is painful, but at least it means the game exists. Without the hatred, you'd have to face the groundlessness. You'd have to sit with the fact that you don't actually know where you're supposed to be, that there is no supposed to be. You'd have to feel the fear of walking without a map, of living without knowing if you're on track, of being here exactly as you are, with no way to measure whether that's enough. So you keep hating yourself. Because the hatred is familiar. Because it gives you a project. Because it lets you believe that once you fix yourself, once you finally catch up, the pain will stop. But watch what actually happens. You hate yourself for not being where they are. And then what? Does it move you forward? Does it bring you peace? Or does it just loop? Does it just become another thing you're carrying, another weight that slows you down while you're busy hating yourself for being slow? The Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Not because you've earned it, not because you've caught up, but because the measuring itself is the suffering. You're protecting yourself from the possibility that you've been running toward nothing. That the finish line keeps moving because you're the one moving it. That the person you're trying to become is just another story about why this moment, this you, isn't enough. And that's terrifying. Because if there's nowhere to get to, then what are you doing? If you're not behind, then what has all this striving been for? The hatred protects you from that question. It keeps you busy. It keeps you focused on the problem of you instead of the possibility that there is no problem. Just this. Just now. Just a life unfolding in its own time, in its own way, with no cosmic scoreboard tracking whether you're winning. You don't have to stop hating yourself. You don't have to fix this. But you can notice it. You can see what's happening. You can watch the thought arise, they're ahead of me. And then watch the next thought, I should be there too. And then the feeling, the tightening, the turning inward. And you can ask quietly without needing an answer, what am I protecting? Maybe you're protecting yourself from the terror of not knowing, from the possibility that your life doesn't need to look like anyone else's, that there's no authority who can tell you if you're doing it right, that you're just here living and no one is keeping score except you. The hatred feels like it's about them, about what they have that you don't. But it's not. It's about you, about what you're not willing to see, about the ground you're afraid to stand on. And the ground is this: you are where you are. They are where they are. And none of it means what you think it means. You can keep building the wall. You can keep hating yourself for being on this side of it. Or you can just stand here without the story, without the measurement, and see what remains. Not peace necessarily, not answers, just the quiet seeing. Just the awareness that the prison has no walls except the ones you're building, brick by brick, with every comparison, every should, every moment of turning against yourself. The question stays open. What are you protecting? And what would happen if you stopped? You see someone's name in the news or their post on your screen, and there it is, that quiet collapse inside. Their success, their recognition, their forward motion. And somehow, in that same moment, you feel smaller. Like the world just became more crowded and there's less room for you now. It's such a strange thing, isn't it? They gained something and you lost nothing. Nothing actually changed in your life. You woke up in the same bed, you're still doing the same work, your hands are the same hands. But something shifted, something tightened. And now their win feels like your loss. You tell yourself it shouldn't bother you. You tell yourself you're happy for them, and maybe part of you is. But underneath that, there's this other feeling, this quiet ache, this sense that they took something that could have been yours, that there's only so much success to go around, only so much light, and they just claimed a piece of it. And so you start comparing, you measure their timeline against yours, you count their wins and your losses. You replay your own efforts, your own attempts, and suddenly they all look smaller, less significant, almost pointless. You thought you were doing okay, maybe even moving forward, but now, next to their brightness, you feel dim. The mind does this so quickly. It takes their moment and makes it about you. It turns their story into evidence of your insufficiency. It creates a competition that doesn't actually exist. And the more you compare, the more solid it becomes. This feeling that you're falling behind, that you're not enough, that time is running out. You might notice how the body holds this. The tightness in your chest, the heaviness, the restlessness that makes you want to scroll away or do something, anything, to prove you're still relevant, still worthy, still here. And underneath all of it, there's fear. Fear that you won't make it. Fear that your chance has passed. Fear that there's a limited amount of recognition, of value, of mattering, and someone else just took your share. But look closely at what's happening. Their success didn't take anything from you. What's taking something from you is the story you're telling about their success, the meaning you're assigning to it, the way you're using it as a mirror to measure your own worth. You're not suffering because of what they achieved. You're suffering because you believe their achievement means something about you, that it proves something, that it reveals something, that it threatens something. And what is it threatening? This sense of self you're trying to build, this identity you're trying to establish, this feeling that you matter, that you're special, that you're moving towards something. Their success shakes that. It reminds you how uncertain it all is, how fragile, how much you're still grasping for proof that you're enough. The Buddha said, the root of suffering is attachment. You're attached to being seen a certain way, to achieving a certain thing, to standing in a certain place. And when someone else stands there, even in their own life, in their own way, it feels like they're blocking your view, like they're in your spot. But there is no spot. There's just this moment, and the next, and the story you keep telling about where you should be. The comparing never ends. Even if you achieve what they achieved, there will be someone else. Another success, another reminder. Another reason to feel like you're not enough, because the problem isn't out there. It's in the comparing itself, in the belief that your worth is relative, that it can be measured, that it can be threatened. And maybe, just for a moment, you can see it. See how the mind creates this, how it takes something neutral, someone else's good fortune, and turns it into your suffering. Not because that's what it is, but because that's what the mind does. It compares. It grasps, it builds a self and then defends it. Their success is just their success. It's not about you. It never was. But you made it about you. You pulled it into your story. You used it to confirm your fears. And now you're sitting with the weight of a comparison that only exists in your mind. You can't stop the feeling from arising. But you can see it. You can notice how it forms, how it tightens, how it tells its story. And in that seeing, something loosens, not because you fixed it, not because you reasoned your way out, but because you stopped believing the story so completely. The feeling might still be there, the tightness, the ache. But now there's space around it. Now it's just a feeling, not the truth. Just a movement in the mind, not a fact about your life. And maybe that's enough, not to feel better, not to stop comparing, but to see clearly what you're doing to yourself, to see how the suffering is made, moment by moment, thought by thought, comparison by comparison. You see someone moving through their day with what looks like ease. They're laughing at something, they're handling what comes, and in that moment, watching them, something tightens in your chest. A thought arrives, quiet but sharp. They have it figured out. And right behind it, the other thought, I don't. This is where the suffering begins, not in their laughter, not in your struggle, but in the story that forms between the two. The story that says their ease is proof of something, that your difficulty means something about you, something wrong, something broken. But look closer at what's actually happening. You're comparing an outside to an inside. You're comparing their surface to your depths. You see their moment. You feel your whole history. And from this uneven ground, you're drawing conclusions about worth, about who's okay and who isn't. The mind does this so quickly. It takes a glimpse, a fragment, a single frame of someone else's life and builds a complete picture. It decides that's what normal looks like, that's what whole looks like. And if you don't match it, if you're struggling, if you're tired, if you're uncertain, then something must be wrong with you. But their ease, the ease you're seeing, is it even real? Or is it a moment? One moment in a day full of moments you don't see. You don't see them at 3 a.m. You don't see them staring at their phone, wondering if they said the wrong thing. You don't see the weight they carry, that they've learned to carry quietly. You see a smile, a confidence, a smoothness, and you believe it's the whole truth. And even if their ease is real in that moment, what does that actually mean about you? Does someone else's calm prove your struggle is a mistake? Does their clarity mean your confusion is a flaw? Or are these just two different experiences happening at the same time, neither one more valid than the other? You're taking your struggle and making it mean something it doesn't mean. You're turning it into evidence. Evidence that you're behind, that you're failing, that you're not enough. But struggle is just struggle. It's tension. It's difficulty. It's the fiction of being human. It doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're alive and things are hard right now. The Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your compassion and love. But instead of compassion, you're measuring, you're comparing, you're using someone else's life as a ruler for your own. And every time you do, you come up short. Not because you actually are short, but because you've chosen a measurement that was never meant for you. Notice how exhausting this is, how much energy it takes to constantly compare, to constantly monitor where you stand in relation to everyone else, to look at their ease and feel your lack, to look at their confidence and feel your doubt. It's like carrying a weight that was never yours to carry. And underneath all of this, there's fear. Fear that your struggle is permanent. Fear that everyone else has something you don't. Fear that you'll always be on the outside of ease, looking in. This fear is what keeps you searching their faces for proof. Proof that you're okay, or proof that you're not. But their life isn't a mirror for yours. Their ease doesn't define your struggle. Their moment of lightness doesn't make your heaviness more real. These are separate experiences, separate lives, moving through separate weather. What if your struggle doesn't mean you're broken? What if it just means things are difficult right now? What if their ease doesn't mean they have something you lack? What if it just means they're having a different moment? You don't know what it costs them to look that easy. You don't know what they've survived to get to that smile. You don't know what they'll face an hour from now. You're comparing your raw, lived experience to their edited, visible one. And in that comparison, you're creating your own suffering. The struggle is real. But the meaning you're giving it, the story that it makes you broken, that's where the pain deepens. That's where you turn difficulty into deficiency. That's where you take what's hard and make it who you are. Can you see it? Can you see how you're doing this? Not to judge it, not to stop it, just to see it, to notice the moment when you look at their ease and decide something about yourself, to notice the story forming, to notice how quickly ease becomes evidence and struggle becomes shame. You're not broken, you're here, feeling what you feel, struggling with what's difficult, watching others and wondering. This is just what's happening. And it doesn't need to mean anything more than that. You open the app again. Maybe you tell yourself you're just checking something, just scrolling, just seeing what's there. But your thumb knows where it's going. Your eyes know what they're looking for. You're counting something. You're counting how many people noticed them. Not you, them, someone else. Someone who used to be yours, or someone you wanted to be yours, or someone who moved on while you're still here, still holding the shape of what was. And now you're watching. You're watching who likes their photos, who comments, who shows up in their world while you become a ghost in your own. You're counting witnesses to their life continuing without you. Each number is a small knife. Each name is proof. Proof that they're fine. Proof that they're seen. Proof that the world didn't stop when you did. And somehow, somewhere inside, you believed it should have. You believed that if you're still carrying this, they should be too. If you're still paused, they should be paused. But they're not paused. And the counting begins. You count how many people saw them today. You count how quickly the likes appeared. You count who was first, who's always there, who might be new. You scroll through the names like you're searching for something. Like you're gathering evidence. Evidence of what, exactly? That they've moved on, that you've been replaced, that you were never as important as you needed to be. But here's what's happening beneath the counting. You're not really counting other people. You're counting your own absence. You're measuring the space where you used to be, checking to see if it's been filled. And every notification they receive, every interaction that isn't with you, feels like confirmation. Confirmation that you don't matter anymore, that you've been forgotten, that the connection you thought was so deep left no trace. This is what you're actually counting, your own invisibility. And the cruelty is that the counting never satisfies. You check once, and the number gives you pain. So you tell yourself you won't check again. But an hour later, your hand reaches for the phone. Maybe the number changed. Maybe something new appeared. Maybe this time you'll find the thing that finally lets you stop. But you never do. Because what you're really looking for isn't in the count. What you're looking for is relief from the craving itself. The craving to still matter, the craving to still exist in their world, the craving for the past to somehow undo itself and return. And no number can give you that. The Buddha said, you only lose what you cling to. You're clinging to a version of reality where their attention meant you were whole, where being seen by them meant you were real, where the connection you once had was the proof of your worth. And now that it's gone, you're searching for that proof everywhere else, in their photos, in other people's reactions, in the digital traces of a life that's moving forward without you. But the counting doesn't bring you closer. It pulls you further away, further from yourself, further from this moment, further from the life that's actually here. Because while you're counting, you're not living, you're haunting. You're hovering at the edges of someone else's existence, trying to extract meaning from numbers that were never about you. You're making yourself smaller and smaller, reducing your worth to whether or not you're still a thought in someone else's mind. And the exhaustion you feel isn't from what you're seeing, it's from the endless grasping, the relentless need to know, to check, to confirm. To find some kind of closure in information that only creates more questions. What are you actually counting? You're counting the distance between who you were when you were seen by them and who you are now that you're not. You're counting the gap, the absence, the empty space where certainty used to be. But the gap isn't real. It's just another story. Another way the mind tries to make sense of impermanence by turning it into a problem that needs solving, as if enough information will finally bring peace, as if knowing exactly how much they've moved on will somehow free you to do the same. It won't. The counting is the cage, and every time you return to it, you're choosing to stay inside. Not because you're weak, not because you're broken, but because some part of you still believes that their attention was the answer. That being noticed was the same as being loved. That visibility was the same as value. And now you're lost in the math of it, adding and subtracting, comparing and measuring, building entire stories from numbers that don't know your name. What if you stop counting? Not as a strategy, not as a way to finally move on, but just to notice what happens when the hand doesn't reach for the phone, when the question doesn't get asked, when the need to know is seen but not fed. The craving doesn't disappear, but something shifts. You're still here, even uncounted, even unseen, even without proof, still here. You're watching someone's life through a screen and something twists inside you. A vacation photo, a promotion announcement, a relationship milestone. And suddenly you're measuring yourself against what they chose to share, what they decided to make visible. And you're finding yourself lacking. But notice what's happening here. You're not comparing your life to their life. You're comparing your entire inner world, all the doubt, all the mess, all the ordinary struggling, to their edited highlight, the version they constructed, the moment they selected. You know this. You know that what people show is chosen, curated, arranged. And still, you punish yourself. Still, you feel the sting of not measuring up, not being enough, not having arrived. Why do you do this? Why do you take their carefully chosen image and use it as a weapon against yourself? Because somewhere inside you believe that what they're showing is real and what you're living is insufficient. You believe their surface is deeper than your depth. You believe their performance is more valid than your actual experience. And so you punish yourself. You withdraw your own kindness. You catalogue your failures. You inventory everything you don't have, everything you haven't achieved, everything you haven't become. You compare your chapter 3 to someone else's carefully photographed chapter 20. And you suffer. But what are you actually punishing yourself for? For being human? For living a life that contains struggle and uncertainty? For not having transformed your existence into a continuous stream of displayable moments? You're punishing yourself for not matching an illusion, for not becoming a highlight reel, for being real in a world that rewards the appearance of perfection. And the cruelty of it, the deep cruelty, is that you know better. You know that behind every polished image is a full human life, complete with fear and boredom and disappointment. You know that the person sharing that perfect moment also lies awake at night sometimes, also feels lost, also wonders if they're enough. You know this about others, but you don't grant it to yourself. Instead, you take their chosen moment and make it a permanent state. You take their single photograph and turn it into their entire existence, and then you compare that fantasy to your lived reality. And of course you come up short. Of course you feel lacking. You're comparing what's actual to what's imagined. Notice how this cycle feeds itself. You see their post, you feel inadequate, you punish yourself. And then you're even less likely to see your own life clearly, even less able to recognize what's actually here. The punishment becomes another layer of suffering, another way of turning away from what is. And what they showed you, that image, that announcement, that moment, it's already gone. It's already in the past. It was gone the moment after it was captured. But you're still carrying it, still using it to hurt yourself, still letting it define what you should be. The Buddha said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. But you're withholding that. You're saying, I'll accept myself when I match what they're showing. I'll be kind to myself when I achieve what they've achieved. I'll stop punishing myself when I become worthy of my own approval." And so the punishment continues, not because you're failing, but because you've accepted an impossible standard. Not because you're lacking, but because you're measuring yourself against something that doesn't exist. A life without struggle, without ordinariness, without the quiet, unglamorous work of simply being here. What if the punishment itself is the problem, not what you have or don't have, not what you've achieved or haven't achieved, but this habit of taking someone else's chosen moment and using it to diminish your own existence? You're here, living this life, with all its complexity and contradiction, with all its small joys and persistent difficulties, with all its invisible progress and unmarked growth. This is what's real. This is what's actually happening. And they're there, living their life. Also complex, also contradictory, also containing everything they'll never show, everything they'll never announce, everything that doesn't fit into a post. Both true, both real, both complete. The punishment comes from forgetting this, from collapsing their fullness into a single image and then hating yourself for not matching it, from believing that what's visible is what's valuable, from thinking that what's shared is what's significant. But you're still doing it, still punishing, still comparing, still suffering, and maybe that's all you can see right now. Not how to stop, not how to fix it, just that it's happening. That you're hurting yourself with someone else's carefully chosen moment. That you're real and they showed you a fragment and somehow you made that fragment into a reason for your own unworthiness. Just seeing that. Just noticing how the punishment works, how it arrives, how it feels, how it lingers, nothing to fix, nothing to resolve. Just this seeing. Just this awareness of what you're doing to yourself with what they chose to show. You're standing in the middle of your own life, looking around at what you've built, what you've chosen, what you've become. And you're wondering if all of it is evidence of a mistake. Not just a small mistake, the mistake. The one that redirected everything. You look at the job you took, the city you moved to, the relationship you stayed in or left, the years you spent learning something that doesn't feel like it matters anymore. And instead of seeing these as choices you made with the information you had, with the person you were, you're turning them into proof. Proof that you were wrong. Proof that you missed something. Proof that everyone else saw the right path, and you somehow didn't. You're building a case against yourself, using your own life as evidence. And the strange thing is, you're doing this while you're still walking. You haven't stopped. You're still moving forward, still making choices, still showing up to your days. But now every step feels heavier because you're carrying this question with you. Did I go the wrong way? Notice what's happening here. You're taking the uncertainty of this moment, the not knowing, the discomfort of where you are, and you're sending it backward. You're letting it rewrite everything that came before. That choice you made 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it wasn't wrong then. But now, because you feel lost or tired or disappointed, you're deciding it must have been wrong all along. You're collapsing time. You're judging the past with the exhaustion of the present. And every time you do this, you tighten the grip. Because if the path was wrong, then you are wrong. If the choices were mistakes, then you are the mistake. The path becomes you, and you become the problem. But here's what's actually happening. You're suffering not because you took the wrong path, but because you're demanding that the path you took should feel different than it does. You're resisting what is. You're standing in your life and wishing it were another life. And that resistance, that constant measuring of what is against, what should have been, that's where the pain lives. The path isn't wrong. The path just is. It brought you here, to this moment, to this breath, to this question. And the question itself isn't proof of anything except that you're awake enough to ask it. You think clarity will come from figuring out if you were right or wrong. But clarity doesn't live in the past. It's not hiding in some alternate version of your life where you made different choices. Clarity is here, in the seeing, in noticing that you're turning your own experience into an enemy. There's a Zen saying, no snowflake ever falls in the wrong place. Not because everything is perfect, not because every choice leads to happiness, but because everything that happens, happens. It arises, it unfolds, it is. You fell where you fell. And now you're here. And the question isn't whether the fall was right or wrong. The question is, can you be here without needing it to be somewhere else? Because that's what you're really doing when you turn your path into proof of error. You're refusing to arrive. You're standing in your own life but not inhabiting it. You're too busy looking backward, too busy imagining the other road, too busy prosecuting yourself for being human. But you were always going to be human. You were always going to choose with incomplete information. You were always going to feel doubt. You were always going to wonder. That's not evidence of failure. That's evidence of being alive. And maybe the path you took wasn't wrong. Maybe it was just hard. Maybe it didn't give you what you thought it would. Maybe it's not finished revealing itself yet. Maybe it's still unfolding, still becoming, still teaching you something you can't see from where you're standing. Or maybe none of that matters. Maybe the real question isn't whether the path was right or wrong, but whether you can stop demanding an answer. Whether you can let the path be what it is. Whether you can let yourself be where you are without turning it into a mistake. You don't need to prove anything. Not to yourself, not to anyone. You just need to see that you're doing it. That you're taking this moment, this breath, this life, this strange and impermanent experience of being you, and you're collapsing it into a story about failure. But it's just a story. And underneath the story, there's just this: the sound of your breath, the feeling of your body, the fact of this moment exactly as it is, no path. No proof, no wrong turn, just this. You're sitting with someone, or you're thinking about them, and there's this feeling, small. Not physically small, but something quieter, something that pulls at your chest. A sense that they're more than you are, that they've figured something out you haven't, that they're standing where you should be standing, living a life you should be living. And you start to notice what you're doing. You're not seeing them as they are. You're seeing a version of them, a version you built piece by piece from what they show you, what they say, what you imagine about their days when you're not there. You're comparing yourself to this version, this idea. And in the comparison, you become less. What version of them are you feeling smaller than? Is it the version that seems so certain? The one who speaks without hesitation, who moves through the world like they know exactly where they're going? You watch them decide things easily, and you feel your own doubt grow heavier. You think they don't question themselves the way you do. You think they've arrived somewhere you're still searching for. Or maybe it's the version that seems so free, the one who doesn't worry about what others think, who says no without guilt, who lives without the weight you carry. You imagine their mind is quiet. You imagine they don't lie awake at night the way you do, replaying conversations, wondering if they said the wrong thing, if they're enough. Or maybe it's the version that has what you want, the relationship, the work, the ease, the recognition. You see what they have, and you feel what you don't have. And in that moment, you shrink. Not because of who they are, but because of what you've decided their having means about your not having. This is what the mind does. It takes someone real, someone as uncertain and impermanent as you are, and turns them into a measuring stick, a standard you're failing to meet. And the more you compare, the smaller you feel. The more solid they seem, the more unstable you become. But here's what's happening beneath the surface. You're not actually seeing them. You're seeing your own fear reflected back. Your fear that you're not enough. Your fear that you're behind. Your fear that everyone else has figured out something essential that you've somehow missed. The version of them you're feeling smaller than. It's not them. It's a story. A story about who they are, stitched together from glimpses and guesses and your own aching sense of lack. And you're believing the story so completely that it feels like truth. You don't know what they doubt. You don't know what keeps them awake. You don't know the ways they feel small when they look at someone else, maybe even when they look at you. You're comparing your inside to their outside, your mess to their presentation, your uncertainty to the version of certainty you've imagined for them. And the suffering isn't in the comparison itself. The suffering is in the clinging, the way you hold on to this version of them and hold on to this version of yourself, the smaller one, the lesser one, and believe both are real, solid, permanent. The Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your compassion. What if the version of them you're feeling smaller than doesn't exist? What if it's as empty as the version of yourself you're clinging to, the one that's not enough, that's falling behind, that should be somewhere else by now, because neither version is stable? The person you're comparing yourself to is changing, just like you. They're uncertain, just like you. They're afraid of not being enough, just like you. They're also building versions of other people and feeling small in the shadow of those versions. And you're not the small thing you feel like in this moment. You're not the lack, the behind, the not yet. You're not the story you're telling about yourself when you stand next to the story you're telling about them. You're just here, aware, feeling small, noticing the feeling, noticing the comparison, noticing how the mind builds and believes and suffers. What version of them are you feeling smaller than? Maybe the question isn't meant to be answered. Maybe it's meant to be held, looked at, seen for what it is. A moment of grasping, a moment of believing, a moment of forgetting that everything you're comparing is already dissolving. The version of them, the version of you, the feeling of smallness itself, all of it passing. And you're here, watching it pass. You're scrolling again. And there it is. Another announcement, another celebration. Someone got the promotion, someone bought the house, someone's book just launched, someone's child just graduated. Someone's life just moved forward in a way that's visible, that's measurable, that's real. And you feel it. That small collapse in your chest, that quiet comparison that happens before you even realize you're making it. Their milestone becomes a mirror. And suddenly you're looking at your own life through that reflection, and it doesn't measure up. It doesn't shine the same way. You tell yourself it doesn't matter. You tell yourself you're happy for them. And maybe you are. But underneath that, there's something else. A question that won't stay quiet. If they're moving forward, what does that say about where you are? If their milestone is worth celebrating, what does that say about yours? You start to measure. You start to compare timelines. They're younger than you and already there. They started later than you and somehow arrived first. They have less experience, fewer credentials, and yet they're being recognized. And you're still here, still waiting, still working towards something that feels like it's always just out of reach. So you begin to wonder if your milestones even count. That quiet project you finished, that small step you took, that thing you're proud of but haven't announced. Does it matter if no one else sees it? Does it matter if it doesn't look like theirs? And this is where the suffering lives. Not in their success, not in their milestone, but in the measuring, in the comparing, in the belief that your progress only matters if it matches someone else's, that your life only has value if it looks a certain way at a certain time. You're letting their milestones become the ruler. And then you're holding your life up against it. And of course it doesn't fit. How could it? Their life is not your life. Their path is not your path. Their timing is not your timing. But the mind doesn't care about that. The mind wants to know where you stand. It wants to know if you're winning or losing, if you're ahead or behind, if you're enough or not enough. And so it uses whatever it can find. Their engagement, their reward, their new beginning. And it turns those things into evidence. Evidence that you're falling short. You forget that milestones are just moments. They're just markers along a path that never stops moving. What looks like an arrival is just another step. What looks like an ending is just another beginning. Nothing stays. Not their success, not your struggle, not this feeling that you're somehow less than. But right now, you're living as if their milestone is permanent, as if it defines them forever. As if it defines you forever. You're freezing a moment in time and building a story around it. A story where they have arrived and you have not. Where they matter and you're still trying to. The Buddha said, you only lose what you cling to. You're clinging to the idea that progress has to look a certain way, that mattering means being seen, that your milestones only count if they're recognized, celebrated, shared. You're clinging to a timeline that isn't even yours. And in that clinging, you lose sight of what's actually here, what you've actually done, what actually matters to you, not to the world watching. Their milestone doesn't diminish yours, it can't. But when you let it become the measure, you disappear. Your own life becomes invisible to you, not because it's small, but because you've stopped looking at it. You're too busy looking at theirs. And the truth is, you don't even know what their milestone costs them. You don't know what they're carrying. You don't know what they're comparing themselves to when they're alone. You're seeing a moment, a highlight, a single frame. And you're using that to judge an entire life, yours and theirs. This is the trap. Not that you notice their success, but that you let it decide what yours means. That you hand over the authority of your own life to someone else's timeline, to someone else's definition of progress, to someone else's idea of what matters. Your milestones don't need permission to matter. They don't need to be big enough, fast enough, visible enough. They don't need to compare. They just are. Moments when you moved, moments when you grew, moments when something shifted, even if no one else saw it. But you won't see that as long as you're measuring, as long as you're letting their life become the standard for yours, as long as you're waiting for your milestones to look like something they're not. So just notice. Notice the comparison happening. Notice the measuring. Notice how quickly you abandon your own life when someone else's looks shinier. Notice how the question itself, why am I letting their milestones decide whether mine matter, already knows the answer. You're the one letting it happen, not because you're weak, but because you're human, because the mind compares, because we all forget, again and again, that we're not walking the same path. And maybe that's all you need to see right now. Just that. Just the seeing.